Hello, friends. Welcome to the Little Woman podcast. Today I'm going to read you some Amy and Laurie fan fiction. I don't think I have done that yet, so it's about time. Today's story comes from Laura Schiller, and Laura has written a lot of nice, canon-friendly Little Woman fan fiction, so definitely check her out. I love her stories. But before we get into that, I thought I would read you a little quote from the annotated edition of Little Woman by my favorite Alcott schooler, Daniel Shealy. And this is from the chapter Lazy Lawrence. So let's start with the Lazy Lawrence. Quote, Laurie went to Nice, intending to stay a week, and remained a month. He was tired of wandering about alone, and Amy's familiar presence seemed to give a home-like charm to the foreign scenes in which she bore a part. He rather missed the muching he used to receive, and enjoyed a taste of it again, for no attentions, however flattering, from strangers were half so pleasant as the sisterly adoration of the girls at home. Amy never would bet him like the others, but she was very glad to see him now, and quite clung to him. He was the representative of the dear family for whom she longed more than she would confess. They naturally took comfort in each other's society, and were very much together, riding, walking, dancing, or doling, for at Nice no one can be very industrious during the gay season. But while apparently amusing themselves in the most careless fashion, they were also half-consciously making discoveries and forming opinions about each other. End quote. And let's see the annotation. Louisa May Alcott believes perfectibility of the individual, but she recognizes important differences in temperament and personality. Here is one of the first strong indications we receive that Laurie and Amy make, quote, natural companions. In the end, it is not that Laurie is unworthy of Joe's affections, but rather that the two are not well suited to each other. Thank you. Oh gosh, don't you just love Alcott schoolers who are pro-canon? And I have been saying this for years in the podcast. It's nice when someone agrees with me. What else we have here? Quote from the book, Valrosa well deserved its name, for in that climate of perpetual summer roses blossomed everywhere. They overhung the archway, thrust themselves between the bars of the great gate with a sweet welcome to passers-by, and lined the avenue, winding through lemon trees and feathery palms up to the villa on the hill. Every shadowy nook where seats invited one to stop and rest was a mass of bloom. Every cool grotto had its marble nymph smiling from a veil of flowers, and every fountain reflected crimson. White or pale pink roses, leaning down to smile at their own beauty. Roses covered the walls of the house, trapped the cornices, climbed the pillars, and ran riot over the balustrade of the white terrace, whence one looked down on the sunny Mediterranean and the white-walled city on its shore. So there we have some flower symbolism. Quote, Laurie is not the only one who reads this episode symbolically, as Amy's frightened response, a double-ended, makes entirely clear. Whether or not she is prepared to admit it, Amy has already guessed what is wrong with Laurie. The solitary scarlet flower that wounds Laurie and is beyond his reach is, of course, the chestnut-haired Joe. In the 19th century language of flowers, red roses symbolize love, passion, and respect, while pale roses signify friendship. Beautiful. And then we have the chat between Amy and Laurie about Amy's art. This is interesting. Writing about his friend Margaret Fuller, Ralph Waldo Emerson noted the difficulties faced by a 19th century woman who desired a professional career. A woman congratulates herself when she is not called to the market, to the courts, to the polls, to the stage, to the orchestra. Only the most extraordinary genius can make the career of an artist secure and agreeable to her. Being an artist myself, I have to agree with that. Amy realizes that she lacks the genius required to succeed in an extremely competitive, male-dominated field. May Alcott, however, persisted in following her own muse, writing to her mother from Paris on March 19, 1877, May noted that she had just viewed paintings by Frederick Arthur Bridgman and others in her American set of friends, almost all male. Just wait till the women have studied 8 or 9 years, as most of the artists have. We will beat them with their own weapons. I felt much encouraged by seeing this collection, and being ready to feel my own power in art grows within me. I freaking love her. Go May. And now let's get back to Amy and Laurie. This is Little Woman Podcast. It reminded me of you. Enjoy! It Reminded Me of You by Laura Schiller. Summary. Laurie sees a side of Amy almost no one else does. Here is a landscape, said Laurie, smiling as he leaned in the doorframe. He didn't know what he had expected when Esther had told him Mademoiselle was in the chapel, since as far as he knew, Aunt March's mansion did not contain such a room. He had thought perhaps Amy was playing a game by herself somewhere, like she did when dressing up in her aunt's old clothes. The little room to which the maid had led him, however, certainly looked like a chapel, with its single chair, a cushion for kneeling, a Bible, a Madonna and Child painting on the wall, and a rosary hanging off the edge of the painting's frame. Laurie! Amy closed the Bible and jumped up from the chair, smiling from ear to ear as usual, but the smile failed as she saw that he was taking in the surroundings. You're early. I didn't expect. Am I interrupting something? I can wait. Oh no, she smoothed her skirt and shook back her curls. I'm ready to go, only please don't tell Joe about this place, will you? She'll laugh at me. Not a word, upon my honor. But why would she? Amy ran her fingers along the glossy black rosary beads. She'd think I am only pretending, but I am not. It was Esther's idea. She said it might do me good to find a quiet place and pray for Papa and Beth. Laurie didn't need to hear that to know she was sincere. That much was obvious. Her voice was quiet, her movements simple, and she wasn't even trying to use unfamiliar words. He missed her bravado a little, but he wished her sisters could see her in moments like this. They, Joe at least, seemed to consider her the shallow one in the family, but her love and faith were just as deep as theirs. He wished with all his heart that he could tell her not to worry, but he knew all too well how valid her worries were. I think it's a first-rate idea, he said instead, clearing his throat as he imagined how many prayers must have gone up already from this little chapel. You should have a place like this at home, and never mind what Joe says. Do you think it would be proper, though, for a Protestant minister's house, I mean? They both looked up at the painting, which looked as Catholic as the rosary. The Virgin Mary had blonde hair and wore a blue cloak with gold embroidery. The lively, bright-eyed Christ child looked as if he might scream out of her lap at any moment, if she wasn't holding him so carefully. Her loving face reminded Laurie of Mrs. March, and the longer he looked, the more he could almost picture the face of the mother he had lost when he was small. For a moment he smelled incense, heard the echo of Latin prayers and Italian lullabies, and saw brown eyes smiling at him, just like the blue ones in the painting. I was raised Catholic, you know, before Grandpa brought me to live with him. I don't believe God would be fussy about what rituals we use. Really? Amy brightened. I have always thought so, but our churches are so dull. I've never understood why we shouldn't worship just as well in a pretty place as in a plain one. Exactly. Laurie tipped an imaginary hat to her. My coach is parked outside. I thought we'd go for a drive today. Shall we? He held out his arm. Amy tucked her hand into the crook of his elbow and beamed. As they left the room, the ebony beads and silver cross hanging from the painting shimmered in the light. There was an understated beauty to them that only caught the eye at second glance. It was only November, but he already had an idea what to give the youngest March sister for Christmas. 5 years later. "You kept this?" asked Laurie softly. "All this time?" He touched the ebony cross on its silver chain with one fingertip where it lay in the hollow of Amy's throat. They were out in the chateau garden, in the way beneath the chestnut trees, autumn leaves sprinkling the path like bits of gold leaf under their feet. The sun was setting over the garden wall, the air just cool and crisp enough that she could lean into him on the bench they shared. Of course, her blush went all the way from her cheeks to the neckline of her black dress. "It was the first gift you ever gave me. It reminded me of you when I saw it in the shop, that little chapel you set up in your aunt's house." "You remember that?" Amy hid her face briefly with her hands. When she removed them, a bittersweet smile was on her face. "How young and silly I was, to be sure. But you have no idea how much your kindness meant to me. I was so lonely." Her voice quivered a little, and he wondered whether it was past or present loneliness she meant, probably both. This was the second time her family had kept her away when Beth was sick. For her own good, but still, she had missed a chance to spend time with Beth in her final months, to work together with the others for her comfort, even to say goodbye. It had all happened without her, while she was on the other side of the ocean. "Not anymore," said Laurie, putting his arm around her. "Not if I can help it." She leaned her golden head on his shoulder, and he remembered the hallowed Madonna in the painting. Had Mary known when she wrapped her baby in swaddling clothes that she would have to wrap him in a shroud only 30 years later? And yet the love that family shared was immortal. Birth, death, rebirth. The calendar cycled through it every year. You couldn't have one without the rest. Whatever the years might bring, he knew beyond a doubt that he wanted to spend them with Amy by his side. The end. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Take care and make good choices. Arrivederci.